Hello everyone, welcome back. We're here for episode 2 of my Apocalypse Challenge. Tony is having some well-earned rest here because in the first installment of this challenge he made a pyramid scheme that was so popular the Grim Reaper himself was recruited, and as a result Tony has managed to make a pact with the Grim Reaper and the angry spirits of the dead, which will enable us to cope better with any deaths that occur in the future. However, that was part of a much longer term strategy, and in the short term we still do not have access to clean water, enough food, or even electricity. In this episode, as with many Sims 2 challenges, we do have to get a bit Henry VIII from here because we do need an heir to continue the Trouble family and keep on rebuilding Sim society. So this here means Tony needs a wife. I am purchasing the Grim Reaper phone career reward, which Tony has earned. We can't use it yet because of the adventure career restriction, but it may come in handy one day. I am placing it in his inventory for now. Tony has a couple of options when it comes to choosing a wife. He's been in quite a long-term situationship with his college professor, whom he could invite over tomorrow and ask her if she would like to join him in his apocalyptic shack. But he has also been seeing a townie named Gwen. Speak of the devil, and they shall appear. I'm using a very advanced matchmaking technique here called Gwen walks past first. So she gets the honour of living in a dilapidated shack with a man who has a hotline to the Grim Reaper himself. I hope you all feel privileged to witness one of the most romantic proposals of all time. Of course, Tony couldn't put down his weaponry for 2 minutes just to ask the love of his life to marry him. But she did say yes. The marriage itself was similarly perfunctory and, of course, included the threat of bodily harm. But congratulations to the happy couple and welcome to the household, Gwen. There's really no time to waste in the apocalypse. One has to grab life by the horns. Gwen is pleased because she's marrying a rich Sim, but as far as I can tell, money has almost no bearing on this challenge. Being rich does not clean the soil nor purify the water, unfortunately. Looks like Gwen is a popularity Sim, so perhaps she is attracted to all his many friends he made through the MLM. She wants to be a captain hero. Annoyingly, I forgot that she was actually his co-worker, so she is also in the paranormal career. That's a bit unfortunate because you can't unlock the same career twice. So we are going to have to start whatever career she's going to unlock from level 1. That's a shame because if she had been a level 9 in literally anything else, we would have been laughing from here to political stability. But alas, we will be starting from scratch. They both immediately rolled the want to have a baby. Well, seeing as there's almost no point in her going to work, might as well get started. Let's give them some privacy. I'm grabbing Gwen some apocalypse suitable duds. She was already wearing a pantsuit, so I've kept her in a pantsuit. It's just a bit grubbier. Get used to the standing in front of the fridge yelling shtick because that is going to be a main feature of this episode and of this challenge as a whole. This is me buying a stereo because the only way Sims can earn body skill points is by working out with the stereo. This is a bit risky because Sims aren't allowed to dance and it is something they do autonomously a lot, so another theme of this challenge along with the fridge screaming will be me cancelling Sims from smussling constantly. Here's Gwen settling in and making her first meal of, you guessed it, hamburgers. Here's Gwen having her first apoca shower and breaking the sink, great. And here's me full to the brim with noble intentions of Gwen fulfilling her lifetime want for which she will need a lot of body skill points. And here's Tony breaking the toilet. I apologise that for almost the whole rest of this episode I forgot that the stereo is on, so there's always music in the background, and between that and the snowstorms and the screaming, this episode promises to be a bit of an assault on the ears. Oh yeah, and as if that wasn't bad enough, Tony now also goes to work in a helicopter, which is also super loud. It was at this point that I remembered townies sometimes have stuff in their inventory when they move in, and I was horrified to discover that Gwen had about 10 items when she's allowed a maximum of 3. Now, I spent a while trying to figure out what the rules were surrounding this, and I hate to admit that I just crashed out and deleted them because the rules were not super clear. They just say that Sims have to downsize, and I was thinking that maybe you just place the items down but not use them, but there was physically no room in this house for a massive plant, a poker table, a hot tub, and a telescope. So, you know what, I apologise profusely to Pinstar for breaking the rules on this occasion, but I'm not sure what I was supposed to do. The 3 smallest items in her inventory, and I'm going to pretend none of that ever happened. So this is when I realised Gwen must be pregnant because she's been living on this lot for barely 24 sim hours, and I've almost killed her from hunger, and she can't eat again until midnight. Now, this time we were lucky, and she did survive just long enough to make and eat a plate of hamburgers, but it was quite a close call. I am still working on building the second floor, constantly forgetting to purchase the daily materials, but it feels more important now that we're going to have a new addition to the family. Okay, Generation 2 is on the way. Unfortunately, I ruined her pregnancy announcement there because I was trying to work out whether Tony could display his new hobby plaque, which he can't because it counts as art. And then I was thinking, do I need to clear his inventory? But apparently I don't, because career rewards don't count towards the 3 item limit, but I did rather ruin their baby announcement. I'm having Gwen quit her job for 2 reasons, actually. I realised she is not actually allowed to keep it at all because paranormal is a university career and we are so far off from unlocking university. But also there is no maternity leave, thanks to the decimation of workers' rights following the apocalypse, so she would have had to leave her career anyway. So I made a bit of a mistake here. Because she was so hungry, I did have Gwen eat some gone-off hamburgers, and unfortunately she is now pregnant and sick with food poisoning, and she kept rolling fears of throwing up, so she's had the most miserable time imaginable. I don't feel like being pregnant in an apocalypse is much fun to start with, but I apologise to Gwen. I really did not help the situation by giving her food poisoning. We are getting closer to the big day. If it's twins, I might actually just end the challenge right here. So Gwen accidentally did some autonomous dancing, and through that I discovered it's her one true hobby, and I felt really bad every time I cancelled it. Don't ask me why I didn't just turn the stereo off. Editing me is not impressed by this noise. I think I must have just been playing the game on mute. We reached a bit of a crunch point with Gwen because she was so hungry, but she kept having to put the plate down to be sick, and I just couldn't get her cured no matter how much lying down she did. Tony, meanwhile, was just ignoring this entire thing and just jumping between skilling and hanging out. Doing nothing. Cult leaders don't seem to go to work very often, so he spent a lot of time just chilling at home while his wife was throwing up and nearly dying. Tony's getting yet another friend claiming to be great friends with someone high up in the paranormal career, and I really don't think that's something anyone should be bragging about. Finally, after a lot of misery and lying down, Gwen recovered from her food poisoning and they enjoyed some family time together. Okay, it's baby time, and thankfully it's not twins. So this is baby Peter, not baby P as I originally typed, who is of course named after Peter Parker, Spider-Man. There's definitely a joke about radiation and spiders and the apocalypse, but I'm going to let you construct that joke yourself. Tony seemed pretty disinterested in the birth of his first son and is much more concerned about what is happening outside. We're getting a crib for Peter. This decision is quite important because cribs are 2 squares and therefore immovable until we unlock the athletic career. This is a conversion from a Fallout game, I believe, and it is suitably tragic and grim. But Peter's birth did put both of them into platinum moods though, so that's nice. Now that Gwen has given birth, she could potentially start working on a career. The first one that came up in the newspaper after she gave birth was the gamer, and the main restriction from that is the inability to use the phone outside of the 12-hour period on Tuesday. Now, it is quite annoying to not be able to use the phone, but I wouldn't say it's a main priority above food or showers. I'm earnestly building this upper floor because if we don't finish it, I'm not sure where Peter's going to sleep once he doesn't fit in the crib. And here's a picture of domestic harmony. I actually posted a screenshot of this on Reddit and someone said they felt really bad for the baby, and upon reflection, same. This challenge is sick. So Gwen is off to work for her first day as a noob. I'm not sure whose priorities we are working with where that job is available in a nuclear disaster, but honestly I mostly just sent her to work so she could get a free lunch and stop yelling at me. I also realised that Gwen, like there's a character called Gwen in Spider-Man. Now I forget who she is. Is she Peter Parker's girlfriend? Because if so, I think we need to move on before it starts getting a bit like Sigmund Freud up in here. Gwen did not get a promotion, but she did bring a friend home. I had forgotten that I gave Patroclus a career in gaming, so the friendly neighborhood zombie returned. There's a zombie version of me somewhere in this neighborhood, but I haven't even shown up on the lot. I guess zombie me is just more unfriendly. Without getting this channel taken down, I'm pretty happy that Gwen has the ability to autonomously sponge bath at the sink. I think that option is only available to Sims who aren't neat, so that helped quite a lot with my sanity and hers, because I didn't have to direct her to wash her hands 85 times a day. Today the first job in the paper was the adventurer career. Again, not sure who's hiring for that in this irradiated wasteland, but I did have her take it because it unlocks the ability to use career rewards, and that would include the Grim Reaper phone that Tony has earned. I have to assume that this is the one phone in the neighbourhood that is not subject to the conditions of the phone network downtime, and that the Grim Reaper can be called at any time, but that wasn't explicit in the rules. Tony has returned home from work with the flu. I think we are really seeing the effects of the breakdown of medical care in the sim world here, and I really hope that everyone survives this episode. Okay, Tony's immune system is obviously more steeled against radiation because he was only ill for about an hour, whereas Gwen was suffering for days. Patroclus is back and Tony is still yapping about the cow. I am starting to wonder if this is related to the cult somehow. Okay, after failing to make any headway as an ambassador's intern, we're going for third time lucky, and Gwen has signed up to be a test subject, presumably testing the long-term effects of radiation. If she makes it to the top of the science career, I believe she canonically reinvents electricity, which in these circumstances may be slightly more helpful than career rewards. So due to a lack of food, Peter did not get a birthday cake, but instead had a party on the floor with hamburgers. And this then immediately reminded me that I had forgotten to build anything on the second floor for about 3 days. I'm not sure what happened between the pair out on the porch, but Patroclus started a fight with this random townie. Not a very nice birthday surprise for Peter. Maybe the townie there is in like a rival cult? Is that a thing? Is there a gang warfare equivalent for like MLMs? Who knows, but the dust from it came all the way into the house, so it was quite a disagreement. As a knowledge sim, Tony is a great father and wants to teach Peter the essential life skills. Don't ask me why the frack those hamburgers are on the floor in the bathroom. Here's Tony maximising all 7 skills. Not really for any purpose, but I'm proud of him. Peter has successfully learned to walk. I'm not potty training because nappy changes give a hygiene boost, which is the only way to actually improve a toddler's hygiene since we don't have a bathtub. Gwen, on the other hand, maybe not a great mum. She's more interested in making best friends and not getting promoted from a test subject. Maybe she's just a really good guinea pig because we're not making any headway in the science career. Tony is still working as a cult leader. They're not particularly short on money, but it does get him some free food. Okay, I take back what I said about Gwen. She's actually having a great time throwing Peter around. It's a good job that the child protection services are presumably not functioning because Tony loves to put his fracking gun through his son's head. Can you say, do you have an entrepreneur mindset, want to be your own boss and be financially free? You could make 6 figures working from anywhere. That's a joke about Tony running a pyramid scheme, which is, it's not confirmed by the way, but it is my suspicion. This is unbelievable. The burglar stole my painting and my bookcase. Okay, the painting I wasn't allowed anyway, so maybe that's like the spirit of Pinstar come to stop me breaking the Apocalypse Challenge rules, but how are you going to steal from people who don't even have electricity? So I forgot to turn the fridge round one day, and Tony made a meal that isn't hamburgers for the first time since the challenge started. He's having some cereal. Not pleased about that because it isn't very filling, but one thing I do like is that Tony has now reached maximum enthusiasm in cuisine, so he now glows with spiritual light every time he eats anything. So I hope he enjoys the cereal. Okay, I repurchased the bookcase. They are absolutely rolling in it, mostly because they have nothing to spend money on. So I guess it's fine that the burglars stole it, but still, I was a bit offended. So Gwen absolutely sucks at climbing the career ladder, which is understandable, but it's really limiting my progress in this challenge, and I'm a bit concerned that we will enter Generation 2 with still only paranormal unlocked. And speaking of Generation 2, Peter's now a child. So as per the rules, he can redeem any of the needs perks that are available on his challenge birthday, and he got all 4. So learning all those toddler skills was worth it for the aspiration points. However, I didn't manage to complete the upper story of the house, and so he doesn't have his own bed, so they are all going to have to share one bed. But maybe one day, he will get to go upstairs and have his own room. Tony wants Peter to go to private school. Buddy, you are lucky he's even going to school at all. I believe the original rules stated that the school bus was armor plated, and that's why children can safely go to school. But I do know that this is his only chance at education because teenagers can't go to school. There's no high school until you've unlocked the education restrictions. So we'll be seeing a lot of Peter. I think Tony is starting to crack. He's heard that Sims in other games have mansions and bathtubs and televisions, while he has snow blowing through the walls and paper aeroplanes. 3 Sims and 1 bed is not ideal, but the problem with just randomly placing another bed is that we can't move any build mode item that's more than 2 squares, so wherever I place Peter's bed, it's essentially stuck there for the foreseeable future, so I'm still trying to build the upstairs. We do have a full set of walls now, we're just waiting a few more days till we have a floor. And it was at this point I realised that we have a roof problem, like a major roof problem, because I checked the rules and you're not allowed to use the auto roof tool. So while I was building this upper story 2 squares at a time, I should also have been building 2 roof tiles at a time. So yeah, phenomenal disaster here. I actually don't know how to build roofs in The Sims 2, especially 2 squares at a time, so I messed around a bit trying to figure this out, and I decided that I was going to just build a horrible, ugly, misshapen roof, 2 squares at a time, and then once it was finished, I would just cheat and use the auto roof tool just so that it didn't look absolutely ugly. If anyone has any tips on roof building, it's possibly too late because I have played slightly further in this challenge than I am posting it, but do let me know. Is it even possible to make a roof look good building it 2 squares at a time? Yeah, here's the family just playing musical beds, 1 in, 1 out. So, fun fact, for some reason, child-age Sims build hygiene from washing hands at the third of the speed of the older life stages. So Peter is spending his entire childhood in front of the sink. Meanwhile, Tony is spending his entire middle age in front of the fridge. Cult leaders don't go to work very often, as it turns out, so they can't take advantage of that on-site catering we were working on last episode. Oh great, now Peter's broken the sink. Okay, I think the lecture is a bit much. With a sink that bad, you probably can't tell the difference between it being broken and it functioning. I gave Peter this medieval peasant style outfit again. I found the crossover with custom content that was appropriate for a medieval village and for an apocalypse town was really quite high. Tony absolutely loves bird watching. He just absolutely pegged it outside. I guess, I don't know, he heard the call of a rare wild kookaburra. Just couldn't wait. This house is so fucking small that if Gwen is working out, Peter can't get past her to wash his hands. I think my plan here was to get Gwen some body skill points because elders can't leave the loss unless they have maximum body skill. And I didn't think she was going to have time to reinvent electricity before she got old, but she did keep trapping Peter in or out of the bathroom. I caught Patroclus in this town doing some very illegal dancing. This is just me testing whether kids can work out on the stereo and decided that they can't. So as per it's the pet showbiz restrictions, children and teenagers can't build skills with anything that isn't also fun. In my small amount of testing, I think that literally only means they can build logic skill with a chess table, because kids can't practice speech in the mirror without mods. They can't obviously study from books because that's not fun. So I think we're going to have like baby Magnus Carlsen on our hands, but like he's not going to be good at anything else. Unfortunately, this does make Peter's childhood a bit boring. It's just hand washing and playing chess, and at least he can go to school. Gwen is still struggling to get her foot in the door of a science lab. I am trying to keep her in a good mood, but I think we're reaching a point where they are just all too hungry and miserable. Okay, she did reach level 2, so they are letting her scrub the beakers. Never lose hope. You never know, she might have a breakthrough. She might reinvent electricity before she age transitions to an elder. Okay, so children are allowed to clean. So he might get 1 or 2 cleaning skill points alongside his Grandmaster Chess trophy, but yeah, there really isn't much for kids to do in the apocalypse. Another issue with having more than one sim in the house is that they won't pee in front of each other, so Peter's marathon hand-washing sessions keep getting interrupted by his parents needing the toilet. So he's also going to be the world's stinkiest chess master. He also keeps breaking the sink, and because he's a child, he can't fix it. I guess he's not to be trusted with a spanner, but yeah, he just stinks constantly. Absolute state of this roof. So Peter takes after his dad in terms of maximum neat points, but he is certainly taking after his mother in his chess skills and his ability to constantly produce green stink lines. Trying to finagle this 1 meal a day situation is a real pain, because you have to make sure that in the millisecond between turning the fridge around and directing them to make food, they don't autonomously like grab a bag of chips and waste the entire day's food rations on a single snack. Peter's brought a friend home from school. Well, I think they're practicing killing zombies out there on the street. Don't let Patroclus hear that. Ever the sly dog, Tony is still rolling once to chat to his professor, even as he is speaking to his wife in the bedroom as well. The cow mascot is a paid actor at this point. There's no way that after like 20 years, Tony can still be finding this interesting. Time's arrow marches on relentlessly, and here Tony has just aged to an elder. Can we hear it for Tony, friend of the Grim Reaper, enemy of the cow mascot, and CEO of the Apocalypse's #1 pyramid scheme? I think we're going to end this episode here. I apologise for it being quite sedate, but you know, life in the apocalypse can be quiet. It can be honestly quite boring. But tune in next time for Peter to grow up into a teenager. Let's find out how our favourite stinky chess master handles his teenage hormones at the end of the world, and also discover if the Trouble family will ever have a second story on their home. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you will be back for episode 3.